listening to Off Limits. Liberal, irreverent, and really, really gay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight on Off Limits Talk. So, I'm just now getting back from the Thanksgiving holiday, and I want to talk tonight about ThanksChristmas, as I call it, because of the insanity surrounding the holidays when it comes to the commercialism and also to how quickly the retailers try to move we, the consumers, into whatever holiday is coming up. And I remember in October, when we have Halloween, I saw Halloween stuff in August. I was like, wow. And then I saw Christmas stuff in October. So I was like, we haven't even had Halloween yet. We haven't even had Thanksgiving yet. And they're already trying to push Christmas on us. Now, I understand they need to make a buck or whatever, but come on. The holidays these days are... And I guess they've been increasingly so over the past, few decades, especially after Reagan pushed consumerism onto America as, greed is good, Wall Street, all that kind of crap. We've sort of turned a point in our culture where we revere and seek consumeristic pursuits so much that I, hold on, sorry, the consumeristic things so much that we are so obsessed with getting the best deal as quickly as possible, focused on Christmas and buying gifts for people as soon as we can so we can save a few bucks. Now, I understand it's important to save money. Obviously, we all want to save money. We all want to have more money in our pockets so we can spend it on things other than what we have to spend it on. But is it really that important to get a gift for Christmas or give a gift for Christmas? Now, obviously, when it comes to your children need to have gifts, and you want to give your kids something because they expect it, and also they're kids. I mean, that's what it's for. But that friend of yours from work that you kind of don't talk to just because they're going to give you a gift, possibly, do you get them a gift? Or your boss or your aunt or your distant cousin just because they're your family member? I don't think so. I think that it's really not incumbent upon someone to give a gift to someone else at all. I think if someone gives you a gift, be grateful, wonderful. You don't have to give one back. It's polite. It's rude not to, I think. But if you feel the same way about that person as they do in order to give you a gift, even if it's not a big gift, it's just some small token, and you don't feel strongly enough about them, then don't give them one. I have people in my life that I give gifts to almost every year at Christmas. They never give me anything, ever. I've never gotten gifts from certain people. And that's typically because of financial limitations, not because they don't want to or wouldn't if they could. But I don't begrudge it, at all. And if I don't feel like giving a gift one year, I don't, because I know that I'm not being, a Scrooge. I just don't feel like doing it that year to someone. But typically, if someone gives me a gift, I'll always try to make an effort to do the same and reciprocate, because I find it to be polite. I don't think I have to do it, but I do it if I like the person and I feel that they, are someone who would appreciate it. So I don't think that we have to give gifts, but we do. I do think that we should if we can. Hey, David 5x5, thanks for listening. So I call it Thanks Christmas because we have such that's the word, conflation, I guess, of the two holidays these days. I mean, as soon as Thanksgiving comes, we're having Black Friday. The day of these days, the stores are opening on Christmas Day, and they're opening earlier and earlier. It's going to be so bad. Eventually, they're going to be opening a week before Thanksgiving, and 10 years time or whatever, they're trying to beat everybody else out of the profits. And retail stores depend a lot on the Christmas holiday to meet their bottom line requirements for their shareholders or whatever. And can you not hear me or something? Hello? Hold on. He says he can't hear me. Can you not hear me? Says I'm on, so I'm not sure why you can't hear me. David says, are you on? I'm like, yes. Hello? I don't know why you can't hear me. I don't know if it's his computer or not. Hopefully, I'll just keep talking and hopefully it'll pick it up. But anyway, so we have a problem in America, I think, with having this obsession with the main issue is having this obsession with consumeristic pursuits and buying more. Now, what is the purpose of Christmas? Let's talk about that first. Well, Christmas obviously initially was meant for people who are Christians to celebrate the quote unquote birth of Jesus Christ and his life, etc. Fine. That's why you've got the word Christ in there. And Christmas trees and Santa Claus and all those sort of things were sort of secular versions of it. But initially it was a religious holiday, and it was something that people celebrated to celebrate the life of Christ and the word of Christ, as they put it. So, however, over, I'd say, the past few hundred years, or maybe 1,000 years, Christmas has become more of a secular holiday. Most people don't celebrate Christmas to celebrate Jesus' life or anything Christian at all. Most people, it's a secular holiday where we celebrate giving gifts and receiving gifts and the spirit of Christmas and loving and charity and things like that. And the idea of Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, like Santa Claus and the reindeer, Charlie Brown Christmas special, mistletoe, decorations, and fireplaces aglow, and all that great stuff, right? That's what most people do think about when they think about Christmas, and I am the same way. I am not a Christian, so I don't really think of Christmas in a Christian sense. I think of it simply as a secular holiday for me personally. That pisses off a lot of Christians because they are, obviously it's their holiday initially, but it's been appropriated by society to mean something else over the centuries, and now it is what it is. So when I think of Christmas, I think of the things I mentioned, and I'm so completely like, for Christmas. I think Christmas, the idea of it is great. I think, like I said, charity and loving one another and giving and hope and all those great things are important things to celebrate and be about at Christmas. But that's not the typical reason or the typical feeling or sentiment people carry throughout Christmas. They're thinking, oh my God, I've got to buy gifts for my kids, or I've got to buy gifts for my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, whatever. And they're scrambling to go to Macy's or to JCPenney or somewhere like that, or Sears or Neiman's or whatever, wherever you may go to shop, and to actually buy the things they need to meet this insane pressure upon, especially we Americans, to consume. And it really irritates me that we as Americans are so bamboozled by the tactics used by retailers to make us spend more money when we go into a store. Of course, everything, I am an architect and interior designer, and so because of that, I know a lot about what it takes to design a retail store, that sort of thing. And I'm telling you, everything from the lighting to the scent to the music, everything, the way things were placed, the colors, everything is geared towards making you, the person who comes into that store, buy everything from the moment you enter that store. And people a lot of times either they don't know that or don't realize that or don't care, but it is something that whenever I go into a retail establishment, I'm cognitively aware of, right? I obviously know this. And so I don't usually fall for it, and like the perfume counter guys or girls and spraying you and, try this, and da-da-da. And so it is a manipulation of my wallet, trying to separate me from money as much as possible. So I am always aware of that when I go to a retail store. And, I think that it's fine to do that as a retailer because that's what you're there for, is to make money. But as a consumer, don't you think that perhaps you should actually use your brain and shop? I think that's why when I shop online, I spend less money online generally anyway, even if I have shipping or whatever, and also typically because there's not tax. But I spend less money online, I think mostly because you're not as easily manipulated by the sights and the smells and the sounds of retail as you are, in a retail establishment. You don't get those things online. Online, it's pretty stripped down. All they can really do is pop-up ads or they can play music possibly, but they generally don't, and placement of items. And so I think it's better to shop online. But my main point is, don't make Christmas about commercialism. Remember the spirit of Christmas and don't make it all about buying gifts. And the truth is, I feel like if somebody can afford to buy me a gift, whether it's my mom or family members or my husband or my friends or whatever it might be, if they couldn't afford to buy me something, then don't buy it. And I certainly am okay with that. I don't need anything from anybody. It's a nice thing to do, but I don't need it. So if they do it, I'm pleased and I'm happy and elated no matter what it is. But I don't think that most people are that way. Most people are like, gimme. I want this and I want that. I want this. I want that. Whatever, as much as they can get. And it's like being a little kid again. So I find it to be kind of disconcerting and boring, but that's just me. So anyway, talking about that, I just wanted to mention all that briefly, but I wanted to talk about my holiday as well and discuss something about myself that I wanted to address. But so this, for my holiday, we had, like I said, 11 people here in the house. And so as a result of that, we had we had my mom here, we had some friends of mine here. We had Michael's family's members here, like his cousins, his nephews, his nieces, his sister, that kind of thing, and myself and Michael, of course. And so we had a great, wonderful time having them here. However, his nephew, whom I've known and I'm close to, I guess you'd say, I've known him since he was 18 or 17. He's now 24, I guess. He came to the house very high, okay? He is not using narcotic drugs. Well, he's using narcotics, but he's not using, what's the word? He's not using street drugs. He's using prescription drugs. He's addicted to prescription drugs, and he's addicted to opiates. And so he came here, and he has a little daughter. She's only 2. I think she's 2 or 3. And he was carrying her in his hands. When he came in the front door, he literally stumbled and almost dropped her. I was horrified. Now, before they came, my sister-in-law told us that she didn't want to come because she was embarrassed by him and didn't want to bring him to the house, and she was worried about what my mother would think and everything else. And so I told her not to worry about any of that, to bring him, because I'd rather them all come and not come because of him. And this guy has done this over and over and over and over again. He relapses and relapses and relapses. Now he's apparently dealing drugs as well. There's prescription drugs. What he's doing is he's going to several doctors and he's getting one drug after the next, and he's refilling and refilling and refilling at different pharmacies. And so he's always high. And so when we were about to go to ICE, which is this thing we do here, and I do here every Thanksgiving, we do for the holiday, is you go, it's like this entire place filled with ice, like 2 million pounds of ice, and you go and they slides and stuff. It's fun for kids especially, but it's fun for adults too. And it's 9 degrees below, it's 9 degrees in there, and you have to wear these huge parkas, and it's freezing. It's fun. And it's really beautiful as well because there's everything's like the buildings and everything are ice sculptures. Anyway, so we went to do that. Before we left, though, he asked if he could use our restroom. I said, sure. So he went back to Michael and my bathroom, not the front room, but the bathroom. And he was in there for a long time. We were all waiting for him to go. And he was still in there, and his mom went back there. And then about 10 minutes later, I went back there, and she was yelling at him, give them to me right now. And he had this huge bag of prescription drugs. And the drug is it's like, for people who are on like heroin, they take methadone. Well, this drug is for people who are addicted to opiates, and you take this instead. But in copious amounts, as he takes it, it can kill you, and it causes you to be really out of it, like he was here. So he was completely out of it. So she took them away, and she said she's going to kick him out when she gets back because he's still living with her. And so we went to the thing. The whole time he's high and bitchy, and he's like talking like this, like that the whole time. It was so embarrassing. And he was talking like that at the table when we ate for dinner as well before we left. And so, and he's so annoying the whole time. All he does is talk and yak in your ear and talks about stuff and complains and everything else when he's high. So anyway, my point is that we went through this whole weekend with him around. Everybody else had a great time outside of him, and we did great stuff. We went out to eat today and we all went out to eat, and we had a lot of fun. So we watched a movie or whatever, and so they left or whatever, and she ended up kicking him out of the house when she got back and said, you get these drugs back when you are sober, and you come back to me and you're sober. And he said, what if it takes me a month to get sober? She's like, well, then you'll be coming back in a month. And it's finally she had the guts to kick him out of her house, finally. And everybody is so happy she's finally had the guts to do that because he's been mistreating her so badly for so long. So fortunately, that didn't go badly. But the thing is, she was afraid to leave him at her house because she was afraid that, first of all, he apparently owes somebody for the drugs that he got, because not only is he getting refills, he's also getting loans from the dealer or whatever, on drugs, and he owes them money. And so she's afraid that the guy's going to come looking for money or drugs at her house. And it's just a whole horrible mess. And so, and I adore her, and actually I adore him too. And she also has another son I like a lot as well as her daughter. We're all really close, I think, but he's a mess. And so I was thinking about addiction and how horrible it is for someone to have addiction. I am not saying this to sound self-righteous, but I am saying this for a reason. I think some people have it, some people don't. Some people have a gene or a predisposition to addiction. He has that. Actually, all three of her children have a predisposition to addiction because their father was a huge alcoholic and drug user, okay? Which she divorced him like 20 years ago, whatever. But anyway, they all inherited that, and her oldest has gone through a great deal of drug use as well, but he's overcome it. He's doing really well. He's got himself in order, got a job, and doing really great, whatever. And he was here as well. And her daughter's never done drugs or anything. She's done really well. And so it's just this one middle child, and he's just having the hardest time. But my point is, because some people are predispositioned to be addicts, I think it's really difficult for some people to really kick it. I don't have any predispositions to addiction. I just don't. I'm fortunate. There's other things I've got demons I have to deal with myself, but I've never had to have that demon. I've never had to deal with addiction my entire life. I can drink and not get drunk. I can drink and not want to drink more. I can smoke a cigarette if I wanted to, and it doesn't do anything to me. I've never done any hard drugs, so I don't know what that would do. But my point is, I'm just not an addictive personality. I don't need to have more for things, for me to feel better or for happy. I don't use drugs that way. So I rarely want to use drugs at all, even prescription stuff, if I don't have to, because I just don't like to be. I don't like to take something that makes me takes away my control or takes away the way I feel or makes me feel gross. So I don't have a problem with that, and so I don't understand it on a first level basis, but I understand it intellectually, and I think that he really needs to go back to rehab. Now, he was in rehab when he was in high school. He was dealing drugs in high school, and he was dealing like cocaine and stuff in high school, okay? And when he was graduating, he graduated, whatever, and then he got caught or something. I can't remember what happened, he took him. His mom sent him to rehab. Finally, he agreed to go to rehab, so he did. And after rehab, he had to stay in a halfway house for a while, and then he stayed with Michael and myself for about a month, I think. And so he was doing really well for a year or two, about a year or so. And then about 20 years old, he relapsed and just has been bad ever since. He's run his car into the walls. He's got this girl pregnant, and he has a kid by. He can't really take care of her. And so it's just a horrible mess. And so drugs are really an addiction. Addiction itself is just a horrible thing. And I hope that people are listening know that it is, I think, something people can overcome. But I think it's something that's very difficult to overcome. I think it's like anything else in our lives. I mean, somebody has an addiction to quote-unquote chocolate or something. I don't know. It's much more than that, obviously. But I think it is something that people have to realize you can win. And so I look at him, and he's continuing to make the same mistakes. He can't keep a job. He keeps getting fired and everything else because he's always high. And he's got so much potential, and he had the choice to go to school. And he was actually going to college a couple of years ago. And instead of using the financial aid money for school, he used it to buy a laptop, which he could use for school. But then he sold the laptop for drugs, and then he ended up owing financial aid. The federal government financial aid has never paid it back, and now he can't get financial aid to go back to school. So he's just fucked his life up. And so it's just frightening, and it's sad to see him. And so when I see him, I feel two things. One, I feel disgust because he's constantly just high all the fucking time. And I'm like, wow. And and the most ironic thing is he said today to his mom when he was yelling at her in my house before they left, he said, "I was fine yesterday. What are you talking about? I wasn't high." And we're all like, oh my God. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even realize that he was high as a kite. I mean, he was slurring his words. He's like, yeah. I mean, he was so bad. He could barely stay awake or keep his head up at the table, okay? And he doesn't even know he was high. I mean, it's really ridiculous. So I feel on one hand, I feel disgust by him. And on the other hand, I feel very sorry for him, and I want to help him. But the thing is, how do you help an addict? I think the way you help them is to do what his mother did, finally, which I've been trying to tell her to do for so long, and she just finally had the guts to do it because she doesn't want to do it, was to kick him out and make him fend for himself. And now we're all afraid he's gonna turn up dead or because of an overdose or something worse, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. So we're just very worried about him, and I care about him a great deal, and so does Michael. But how do you fix an addict? How do you fix a problem like addiction? It's definitely a conundrum. It's a hard one to do. I think it always takes the person that is actually addicted. It has to be their idea, and it has to be their decision. So anyway, so that's that about that. So anyway, that was my holiday thing, but it was great. Oh, and we had the kids here, and so one of the things I was going to talk about is that we had the kids there. One is Tucker. Oh, I shouldn't say his name. Sorry. One is the oldest son. He's 5, and the other one is the younger girl of the addict. She's 3. But anyway, they were here, and they had a ton of time. They had so much fun, and I just enjoyed having them here. And it just reminded me how much I really wanted to have a kid. I still want to have a kid, and I still really want one. And so Michael's cousin, who is about a little younger than me, I think, or maybe my age a little younger, she actually volunteered to be a surrogate and carry my baby and his baby. But we don't think her husband's going to go for it. He's like he's an attorney. He's a cop, and he doesn't seem like the kind that would go for it. But she's offered it, and so I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. So that would be awesome. The thing is, though, I really want a kid. I've talked about it before. A kid that's my own genetic makeup, because I just don't know what I'm going to get with an adopted child. You don't know what you're going to get with your own child either. But I mean, at least with my own child, I have an idea of what's going to come out in terms of their personality and their intellect and who they are. Whereas with adoption, it's very, very iffy, and you never know what you're getting. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. So anyhow, so I don't know if it's going to what's going to turn out with that, but I'm really, having the kids here, it really made me really want to have kids soon and have, and that's the next thing on our list after this major, massive remodel we're doing on the house is done. we're going to be doing, that's the next step. And so actually next year, we should be done with the main part of the addition, and not the addition, the main part of phase 2 of the renovation, which does include another addition, by the way. But by the end of next year. And so we're going to start looking into surrogacy and adoption options and stuff this coming year, and hopefully have a kid by the time I'm 40. Excuse me. That's the idea, and that's the goal. Hope to God that I do. And Michael doesn't really care if it's his kid by DNA or if it's adopted either. And I don't really care if it's adopted. I've thought about adopting a kid, and the only reason I am afraid to adopt is if I adopt an older child, which I would be fine with as well, like a kid that's like 5, 6, 7 even. That would be okay. The thing is that they come with their own emotional baggage and mental baggage, and also their own predispositions that have been they've been geared towards already, meaning like their family, let's say it's a Catholic kid, a kid who comes from a Catholic family, and their family says how horrible gay people are, and so they come to us being complete bigots or racist or asshole because of how they were raised by their previous parents or whatever. So, or whatever they've learned just through their friends or something like that. And so I don't want to have to deal with bigotry in my own home, first of all, nor with a kid and have to convert them from being a bigot to an open-minded individual. So that's one of the reasons I'm afraid. And also they come with emotional issues, usually because they've been abandoned, especially the older they are, the more they feel that way, I'm sure. And I don't even know, I mean, I've never had a kid, so I don't know if I'd be able to navigate the requirements that they would have, you know, for making them feel better or whatever. Ken Boggle says, I see images of Mommy Dearest while he's talking about having a child of his own. Oh, shut up. And by the way, it's interesting you said that, because that's the next thing I was going to talk about, was cleanliness. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Mommy Dearest. First of all, I would say I have a great deal of patience for kids and for animals. I don't have a lot of patience for adults. I don't know why. I just think adults should know better usually about things. But when it comes to my Monty, who's my dog, who's now 12 years old, occasionally he actually does piddle on the floor or something. Even if I let him out every hour on the hour, occasionally he'll do it anyway because he's getting senile, I think. And so I have to clean it up or whatever, which I'm not happy about. I'm very, very much a clean freak. And so, but I don't yell at him or hit him or anything like that. I just know he's old and he can't help it, and he forgets himself or whatever. And the same with kids. I'm very patient with kids because they don't know any better. There's no reason to yell at them or hit them or harm them in any way. So I have a great deal of patience for children and for animals when it comes to that. But when it comes to my home, and this is what I was going to talk about. I want to talk about this because it's a deeply personal thing, but it probably won't sound deeply personal to you, but it is, because it's something that it's been part of me all my life and the way I think. But when I was little, when I was growing up with my mom, my grandmother, mostly, and I was at my dad's too, for weekends, but every other weekend. But I was born a very, very neat person. Like, I was born I think I must come out that way, because I remember when I was little, like 5 years old, 6 years old even, I was rearranging my grandmother's living room when I visited her in the summer or whatever, my mom's living room, my bedroom. I'd be cleaning it all the time, whatever. Now, it would be messy, but as soon as it got messy, I would clean it up. Okay. And I would organize things. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed making things new and fresh and clean again. And so I was always very, excuse me, allergies. Sorry. I was always very, very fastidious is the word I would use about my surroundings. And that's probably one of the reasons I'm an architect and interior designer, because I like beauty. I like making things beautiful. I'm very much into the lines of things, whatever. And like I said before in my show, I used to build card houses and Lincoln log houses and draw floor plans for fun. So it's always been something that's part of me. So now as an adult, though, when I was growing up, I was, when I went to college the first time at SMU, which I went to, and I remember I met some friends there, made some friends there, and I was from a middle-class home. But most of my friends were as well. But I would say most of them were from upper middle class homes. Not all of them. Some of them were from like me. I'd say about half of them were like me, and the other half were like from upper middle class or wealthy homes. Okay, because SMUs are mostly, at least then, I don't know what it's like now, had a lot of really affluent students, and it probably still does because of where it's located. But Anyway, when I went to school, first I should back up. When I was in high school, I rarely invited people over to my house or anything unless there was somebody I was very close to and I trusted a great deal and I knew already or whatever. Like I had friends, lifelong friends that of course have come over all the time. But like new friends from my high school that I didn't really know, it took me a really long time to invite them over because I did not want people to judge where I lived. Where I lived was perfectly fine. We had a 2-story house, and it was nice, and it was newer. It was probably 10 years old at the time or something like that. And we had a pool, and I mean, it was a nice place. But in my estimation, compared to what I was seeing from my friends or whatever else, and what I'd see on TV at the time as a child, I was very self-conscious about it. So I was very insecure about it. And so, whenever anybody would come over, whether it was my friends or family members, whatever, I would clean like a nut, like Mommy Dearest, basically, like Joan Crawford and Mommy Dearest, right? And so, I would clean like a nut because to me, as a child in my brain, I was like, okay, you have to be beyond reproach at all times, meaning as long as I was perfect and everything was perfect, and no one could ever say anything bad about me. Because if I was perfect, what are you going to say about me, right? And so as long as my home was perfect, my room was perfect, I looked as well dressed and perfect as possible. So I had this perfectionism trait, and like I said about the cleaning thing, and just about in general, and that was based on insecurity, right, as a kid. And so when I was growing up, people come over, I'd always clean. So then when I was in college at SMU, I was talking about a minute ago, I would the first time I had a friend over, I had some friends over, and they came over and they for my house for the weekend when my mom was gone or something, and we stayed there because I lived in the suburb of Dallas, my mom did, and I lived in Dallas at SMU on the campus. And so they came over and I made sure everything was perfectly spotless and clean. And my dog Lassie at the time, she was old, like Monty's getting now, and she couldn't get up. She had really bad arthritis, and she actually peed in the floor while we were there she was like 15 years old, by the way, in the kitchen. And I was so embarrassed. I was mortified by it. And they didn't care, but I did. And I was so embarrassed by it. So I cleaned it up, whatever, and cleaned her up, and that was it. But I'm getting to a point here. Sorry, I was taking so long to get to it. And so now, as an adult, as I've gotten older, and when people come to my house, it's incredibly important when they come inside that my house look as spotless as possible. And it's still a remnant of that little boy who wanted to be perfect and beyond reproach. And so I still am that way today. I still need people to see me in my most positive light, in the best light possible when they come to my home, because my home is a reflection of me personally, and I've always felt that way, even as a little kid. And so, and it's exacerbated by the fact of what I do. I'm an architect, I'm an interior designer, and so when people come to my home, they have high expectations. And so right now, because we are in the middle of construction on my house, it doesn't look its best. We're in the middle. And so there's lots of things I haven't done because we're not doing them until we get to that portion of the construction, because it doesn't make sense to do it twice and spend twice the money. And so fortunately we finished the first phase already. Now we're on to the second phase. And so in a year and a half from now, I'll have everything done. But it's just that in this interim period, it drives me crazy. So it gives me great levels of anxiety. I feel highly anxious about it. And so when everybody comes over, I'm just anxious like crazy. So when we were having these people over for Thanksgiving, I was a cleaning freak, and not only that, I tried to finish all this crazy stuff in the construction portion of the house that was impossible to finish, one person, or even two or three, in the time I had allotted to do it. Because we were starting construction, we had drywall down in some of the rooms because we're taking some of those walls down and expanding. And the other half of the house, like in the living room, family room, like between the family room and the kitchen, we're taking down the wall, and then the wall between the garage and the kitchen. Now we're pushing the kitchen back into the garage. It's going to be the 700 square foot kitchen, and it's going to be really huge. And so we had some of those walls taken down because we were getting ready to have that done. And then I realized they were coming for Thanksgiving. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I told them, obviously, that, we're under construction. And they knew this because I talk about that all the time to them. But they actually hadn't been to this house. Oh, that's the other thing. His family had not been here, and I've known them for 7 years. Now, Trey, one of his nephews had been here before. But his other nephew and his niece and his sister had never been here before. And that's just because they really couldn't afford to come up here from Waco, because she's a single mother on a low income or whatever. And so and plus she was dealing with a guy, one of her kids, who had drug addiction problems, and he was stealing her money and everything else. So she never had to get up here. Plus she couldn't get away because of time. So this was the first time she'd been here. And all of them except for the one. And so I was incredibly just freaked out by it, because I was so stressed about it, And so I tried to do all the stuff with the drywall back and everything else that I normally, and I'm not a manual labor kind of person, by the way. I do it, but I'm not, I don't enjoy it at all. That's why I hire people to do it for me. So, but yeah, painting and stuff's no big deal. So over the past 3 weeks, every weekend, the past 3 weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have been busting, trying to get things finished. So I'd have at least one room that was representative of me, finished before then. But no, because I had to tear up the floor and the formal living room, because we're lowering it, sinking it down to made a sunken living room in there. And so it's just concrete right now, and I have to wait for the terrazzo to get installed. And I mean, it's just, my point is, I know I'm rambling, but my point is, look, I'm trying to express to you that I have a huge issue with that, and I always have. And so it's hard for me to overcome it. So when we're talking about addiction earlier, and I was talking about I have my own demons, that's my demon. I have this thing where my house has to be perfect, spotless, before someone comes over to see it. I mean, I have not had people over before because the floors need to be refinished or something. I mean, I'm not ridiculously anal and stupid about it. I'm really pathologically crazy about this, okay? And so, and I've had friendships with people before that, and like I had, actually, when I was at the JFK thing last week, Michael and I met this really cool chick there, and she and I were talking, and she's like, oh, we should have game night, whatever. I was like, sure, and so you can come over and have game night sometime. So I'm not inviting her ass over for game night until the house is finished, because I don't want her to, first impression, to be this horrible, construction zone. So I'm really crazy that I am like that. Okay, let me see what you're saying. Kim Buckle says, all the coke you've been doing, Donovan. If I wanted people to see me in the perfect light, I'd have to entertain in the dark. That's a great saying, Ken. So anyway, that's just one of my little issues that I wanted to talk about, because I'm not perfect, and I have my own things, and that's mine. It's not a big one, but it's something that there are worse things I could have issues with, but that's mine. So if I get to know any of you really well in the future, and you ever come to Dallas and you want to visit me, it'll have to be probably in a year from now when my house is finished, because I don't want people to see it with a construction zone. Excuse me. So I don't know, what do you do about that when you have that kind of an issue, when it affects your life, it affects who you are, it affects what you're going to accomplish in terms of friendships and where you're going to go with those friendships, and it basically impedes them and makes them more difficult. I think it's sort of a barrier to intimacy for me, because I don't want to let people in, because like I said, the house to me, one's home is a reflection of who they are and of myself, and so I'm letting them into my house, I'm letting them into my heart. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a gracious host, and we entertain or whatever with people that I know well or whatever and like, but it's like, if it's someone I don't know, I have to really know you well before I can let you into my heart. And so it's somewhat of a metaphor for how I am. And yet, at the same time, I'm a really open person. So I'm a bit of a dichotomy, I guess, because I'm very open about myself and like who I am and stuff, but I'm also very kind of closed off in some ways. So it's like I've got one arm stretched out in front of you, holding your chest away, and the other one saying, come closer. So that's how my personality is. It's always been like that. So anyway, my point is that I am a bit crazy when it comes to this, and it is who I am. So you can take it or leave it, but it is who I am. And I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say, because I don't think that it's a horrible thing, but it's certainly something that I deal with constantly. So I just want to talk about it because I was talking about Thanksgiving and how horrible of a time, I've had trying to get ready for it and everything. If they'd come just, a few weeks earlier, everything would have been fine, because it's before we started the construction on the second phase of the house. But because we were in the middle of it, and we had all these walls knocked down and floors ripped up, and it was just embarrassing to me. So does anybody else ever feel like that, or is it just me? Anybody else feels that they're they're always trying to be so perfect all the time in terms of how they present themselves. I think it's a control issue for me. How I'm perceived is very important. Just like I think anybody's like that to some degree, but I've been like that since I was a little kid. The perception, controlling my perception, like I would have been a great PR person because controlling people's PR. But I try to control how people see me when really you can't, because people either like you or they don't. So anyway, that's what I want to say about that. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about before I go? So I talked about the holidays. I talked about my friends or my nephew. I think that's all I want to talk about that. There was are you the same way, David? Well, that's good. It makes me feel better. I feel like I'm not completely nuts then. Because I do feel like it sometimes, and I've been to therapy about it, whatever, and it's just something that is part of me. It's literally something that's really difficult for me to let go of, having that control over how I'm perceived by people. And I don't go to such lengths, but I just go to when it comes, it's only to my home. It's only my home. Anything else I'm not like that about, but it's just my home primarily. But I am what I am, I guess. So, Goofy Bone was giving away a TV earlier in his show. I was listening to his show briefly earlier, and I could say the same thing about you, Ken. We're listening to his show earlier, and he was giving away a 720 or 780p, whatever it's called, 720p, I think, 720p television set, and I said 720p, it's not even 1080, and he got pissed off or whatever. And he said something about faggot, and so I called him a name back. But anyway, so I don't appreciate being called faggot. If you're, if you call me a name and I call you one back. So if you're not okay with that, then no. But don't use the word faggot, okay? I know it's your show and everything, and I'm so sick of people thinking it's okay to use that. I have a friend, Moxie, that she's on Spreaker now. I've known her for a few years now, and she was on BTR for a long time as well. And she was on there way before I was on there. She's friends with Desert Rose as well as some other people that I know. But she uses the word faggot a lot, and she says faggot, 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 faggot. And I've told her how much it bothers me or whatever. And she says to me, well, I'm not using it to a gay person, I'm only using it to a straight person. So therefore, she says it makes it okay. Well, I still disagree with her. We've had this conversation before, and I adore her, but I just do not like the fact that she constantly uses the word faggot when she's talking to people. I don't care if you're straight or gay. It's just like a white person using the N-word to someone who's white. It's the same thing, and it typically would bother someone who's black to hear someone use the N-word, whether it's towards a black person or a white person, because that word is not something that is okay to use, whether you're addressing it to someone that it applies to or not. Just don't use the word. And so that's how I feel about it. And I feel like people have sort of desensitized themselves to language, as if language somehow doesn't matter, as if words don't hurt, as if words don't have meaning or power, and they do. And I hear this all the time on Goofy Show and other people's shows. Oh, it's just words, we're just kidding, you can't take a joke, whatever. Well, no, it's not a joke. And it's not a joke, and it's not funny, and it's not okay to use those words around me. And so they're saying, well, no, listen to my show. Well, I don't. I usually listen to your show, people that use those kind of words. Now, Goofy's been pretty good about it lately. He hasn't really said it a lot. This is the first time I've heard him say it, so that's why I was a little disappointed in hearing him say that and use that word. But I guess it's hard to change your stripes once you've been sort of bigoted in some way towards some particular sect for a long time. But I don't think it's okay to use it. I don't care if you're gay or straight or whatever. David says, yeah, a white person cannot use that word with or around me. I think those words should be abolished from vocabulary for compassion's sake, says Ken. But that's just it, though, guys. People think that using those words is their freedom of speech. That's the other thing I hear, especially from Moxie and other people, is it's freedom of speech to say those words. And I always make a distinction between freedom of speech and hate speech. To me, there's a difference between hate speech and just speech, right? And I think that there isn't an actual freedom of hate speech, because we have civil liberties and laws against that to some degree. So I don't know if it's even, even dawns on them that it matters, or that it would make sense to abolish them from our vocabulary, which they'll never be because people are going to continue to use them because they're ignorant. But I don't think that it's ever going to change anything at all. I think it's always going to be the same way. But I just am disappointed when people use those words. And so it's hard for me to remain friends with people in any capacity. I'm very much a black and white kind of guy, no pun intended. I'm very much a black and white kind of guy. And I'm either like you or I don't like you. I'm either on your side or I'm not on your side. I'm either with you or I'm against you. I'm either your friend or I'm not. And that's just me. There's not much gray area for me when it comes to those things. I can't be kind of a friend. I have to be a real friend or no friend at all. And that's just the way I am. I guess that's because I'm a passionate individual. I'm a person of extremes, and my personality is pretty intense. And so when I like somebody, whether it's a friend or relationship or whatever, I really like somebody as a friend or relationship, whatever. If I really don't like somebody, I really don't like them, and I don't want anything to do with them. And I just prefer to pretend they don't exist and never have. Personally, if I don't like you, I just act like you don't exist. Generally speaking, if I can help it, as long as you're not constantly berating me and trying to fucking stalk me. Anyway, so I'm a little different that way, but it's difficult to remain friends with people who continue to call other people faggot or the N-word or kike or spick or G or whatever. Whatever you're going to say. I mean, these words that really do have power and meaning, and I know they have power and meaning because I've been on the receiving end of them before. And to say that they don't is basically just ignorant, an ignorant statement in my opinion. So, we're going to do on the crew show, I want to talk about that before I go. We're going to do an interview on the crew with Jason Dotley from Sorted Lives. Also, he's a singer. He does some really cool dance music. On Tuesday, I think we're doing it live on the crew. You can go to thecrewshow.net to see more about that and find out when it's going to be on. You can also, of course, go to my website, offlimitsshow.com, and find out more about me, read the blogs, etc. Read our blogs on the crew as well, because I'm trying to get the guys to blog on there as well as myself on both sites, so we can just so you can kind of get to know us a little better beyond our shows, although I'm pretty much exactly the same as I am off the air as I am on the air. Oh, so David says we're not doing the show live. Oh, David has a control issue. He has to control everything, so he has to make sure it's perfect before he puts it on the air, which is a good thing. So that's fine. So he says it's not going to be live, but I guess he's going to post it on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So listen for that show. It should be interesting to hear him talk about his journey through the world as well. And I've been Virgos. Oh, he says he's a Virgo. Yeah. Yes, Virgos. Virgos. Interestingly enough, my grandmother was a Virgo, but she wasn't very Virgoian or whatever the word would be. So I don't know what the word would be, but anyway. But, well, to me, look, I mean, if you have drywall, Ken, if you have an open wall with studs showing, the first time someone comes over to your house, it's just not the best first impression. That's all I'm saying. So I was simply trying to cover it up and get it painted before they got here. And I got it done, most of it, but I didn't get the trim done and the perfection that I wanted because I did it myself. But I did it. It looked okay. It's just that I didn't get the trim and stuff done. The final touches done, basically. But fortunately, I'm going to take a break this weekend and not do anything at all and just kind of relax. Well, we're going to put the Christmas tree up. And we have a Christmas tree in the family room, and we have a Christmas tree in the living room. And they are... we have a fun tree, which we call them, put in the living room, and we have the formal tree we put in the family room. And so, because that's usually where we have Christmas. And got to put all the decorations outside. We got to put the lights outside, all that kind of stuff. Which probably wait till next week to do that because that's a big chore. But yeah, so we're getting ready for Christmas, and so Christmas this year will be just me and Michael, my mom, and some friends, and then we're going down to see his family in Waco and be with them the Christmas day through that Saturday, I think. So it should be a good Christmas, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, just don't rush Christmas and allow it to just happen and come along, and don't get so frazzled that you have to shop for everybody in your life. And I don't think if you don't give a gift to someone that it means you don't love them or care about them. And if people think that or feel that way, then they're not really your friend anyway, right? I mean, who the fuck cares? So I want to say thanks for listening to my rambling tonight, and I hope you guys have a great show. Good night.